And well, for more on this, we are now being joined by Dr. Malcolm Davis from Canberra. He's a senior analyst in defence strategy and capability at Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Welcome to World DNA, Dr. Davis.
Thank you for having me.
Now, big breaking news that Putin has clearly said that he is ready to hold talks with Trump on the Ukraine-Russia war. First up, your analysis: is a war-ending deal on the cards?
No, in the sense that what Putin's terms are for any ceasefire is that he gets to keep all the territory that he's conquered so far in Ukraine and annexed illegally. Secondly, that he extends control of that territory beyond the territory he's controlling to other areas of Ukraine. Thirdly, that Ukraine has no way into NATO and has no security guarantees from the West. And ultimately, what that does is it rewards aggression, rewards Russian aggression, and gives Russia time to regroup its forces so that it can launch the war again in a year or two to take more territory. So I am extremely skeptical that this will lead to some sort of just peace coming out of these negotiations.
Right, Dr. Davis, you've clearly said that there is no peace on the cards between Ukraine and Russia. Now, Putin's willingness to hold talks comes a day after Zelensky said that he could also speak with Putin. So perhaps, do you think that what kind of concessions will be made to end 3 years of fighting between Russia and Ukraine, because ending the war is on top of Trump's agenda as well?
It is, but at the same time, you've got to end the war in a way that preserves Ukraine's security and its interests going forward, and at the same time ensures that NATO and Western Europe is not threatened by Russia. And Zelensky, I think, understands this. He understands that the best way to ensure a future war does not occur in Ukraine would be for Ukraine to become part of NATO, and I think that's an entirely appropriate step to take. Russia obviously opposes it. But secondly, you've got to end the war in a way that prevents Russia from them using a ceasefire or using that peace agreement to regroup and rearm and either threaten Ukraine in a year or two, or worse, threaten NATO directly. So I think that what we need to avoid here is falling into the trap that we did in 1938 with Munich, where we had a peace in our time agreement that ultimately gave Hitler and the Nazis time to continue the war and ultimately take more of Europe. We need to avoid repeating the mistakes of history here and ultimately come up with some sort of peace agreement that protects Ukraine's interests, that protects Europe's security, and denies Russia the ability to launch further aggression. What I'm seeing at the moment does none of those things.
Right. I also want to touch upon Putin's latest statement, where he said that if Trump was in the office, the Ukraine war would not have taken place. It would have perhaps been averted. He also called Trump pragmatic and smart, and he also spoke about nuclear disarmament with US. I want to ask you if all this leads to strong keenness from Russia's side to mend ties with the US with Trump in the Oval Office.
No, in the sense that what Putin is doing is trying to manipulate Trump's ego. I think if Trump had been in power, Putin still would have invaded Ukraine. It doesn't matter who was in the Oval Office. Putin had every intention and determination to invade Ukraine because he sees Ukraine as part of Russia. He sees this war in Ukraine as merely the first campaign in a wider war to impose a Russian sphere of influence. And ultimately what Putin wants to achieve is to dictate the terms of NATO's capitulation that sees them withdraw from Central and Eastern Europe. So I don't think, Putin would have necessarily held off had Trump been in power. Secondly, in terms of nuclear disarmament, that's simply not going to happen. Russia is in the throes of a major nuclear modernization and expansion process at the moment. There's already indications that they have violated New START, that key arms control agreement that is supposed to limit the number of warheads and missile delivery systems by the United States and Russia. And Russia's already violated that, and they're continuing to expand and modernize their capabilities. And the US obviously is trying to catch up to developments in Russia in that regard. So I think that once again, the notion somehow that Russia is sincere and genuine about nuclear disarmament or nuclear reductions, I think is laughable.
Right, Dr. Davis, thank you for joining us on World DNA with your insights.
Thank you.